Are you in the market for a high quality and stylish backpack, briefcase, clutch, or wallet? If so, make sure you buy something that has privacy built right into the product. And there is only one company that provides the best products on the market, and that's Silent Pocket. Visit their full line of patented Faraday products at silentpocket.com. And don't forget to use discount code SHAREDSECURITY at checkout to take 15% off your order.
Over 90% of individuals show risky behavior in handling potential phishing messages, according to ClickArmor's free CanIBeFished.com self-assessment. This engaging coronavirus edition of CanIBeFished.com can help identify your team's total vulnerability to phishing attacks that exploit the pandemic situation. So test your own vulnerability to phishing attacks for free now at CanIBeFished.com.
Welcome to Shared Security, episode 99.
99.
Can you believe it's 99?
Cannot believe it.
I can't either. So how are things going, Scott?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's as awesome as it could be when you're locked down, right?
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Yeah, the quarantine is going well here, I think.
Yeah. So I mean, no big complaints. We're surviving. So, but hey, there's a lot of hacker activity we should talk about.
Yes, there is a lot of activity going on. In fact, one of the topics I wanted to talk about today was Apple and Google coming together to build that contact tracing technology. I'm sure you've heard about that, Scott. Kind of
Yep.
Major privacy news this week.
Yeah. So how's that going?
The privacy news?
No, the contact tracing stuff. Like, is it working, or have they released it yet?
Well, they haven't released it yet, but there are a lot of different apps that are out there right now that are that other countries have built those, like Singapore, and yeah, we'll get into that in the when we discuss that on the show here. We did have one more thing on the agenda today too that I wanted to discuss,
Okay.
which are some of the good things that are going on in the cybersecurity community with COVID-19. So
Yes.
we hear a lot of bad and negative news all the time, for obvious reasons. I mean, I actually hate turning on the news because it's just so negative. I don't know about you, Scott, but
Yeah, it gets to be a little much, right?
It does.
It does. And it's interesting that you start to see at the end of every newscast, there's the good news columnist.
Yeah. Right.
Trying to bring people back up a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so I wanted to share just some good things going on in the cybersecurity space.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's important that it's not all negative. And yeah, it sucks being in quarantine. It sucks not being able to go anywhere. And I think I remember talking to my wife the other day about, remember those days when we used to go to the restaurants? We used to go out on Friday nights and see a movie or, go to a sporting event.
A movie? Movies? What are those?
Yeah. Back in the day. But it'll all get better soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I mean, we do have a great community of security professionals. Just amazing efforts being made.
I agree. I definitely agree. So things are going well in Ottawa. It sounds like you're surviving and
yeah, well, as you know, ClickArmor, who sponsors the podcast, is doing well. We've got our Can I Be Fished self-assessment now that people can go and play and see their proficiency at being able to spot phishing emails. And we actually that's free for anybody, but we also just released a new version, which is an organizational assessment called CanWeBeFished.com.
Nice.
And all that means is we can work with an organization and say, we will take all of the results from everybody in your organization and give you a report on your vulnerability to phishing in a very different way than traditional phishing assessments, where they send out a live email and see if you click. And so it's actually getting some really interesting response. People really like it. So be very happy for people to come and try it out and just get an idea of what your phishing vulnerability is. And it could be really helpful to you to realize where you could be tricked.
Yes, and you can visit that at canibefish.com right
Yes.
now.
Yep.
We'll have that linked in our show notes, of course. And you have your ad now in our weekly show, which
Yeah.
we've been promoting.
Yes.
So you can, it's also linked there. And we encourage you to share that with friends and family and businesses. And it sounds like you've gotten a pretty good response to that as well.
Yeah, if people find it a lot more fun, more realistic than typical kinds of
Yeah.
training or tests. There's a similar kind of thing that Google does, but it's not as much fun. I have to say. But the response has been quite good. Everybody kind of says, "Oh yeah, this is really cool." I could, they have lots of ideas for how we could leverage it and make good use of it. So we're happy that it's being seen as a helpful thing. We'd like to try and do our part, as most businesses are trying to, right? I mean
Yeah.
that offering discounted or free services. It's sometimes that's all you can do from the privacy of your home where you're forced to work from.
That's right. That's right. Well, good stuff. Good stuff. And definitely everyone should check that out. But so let's get into some of the topics. And first up is the Apple and Google contact tracing controversy.
Yep.
That has caused quite the stir. In fact, I had talked about this on the weekly show the other week. And when I brought it up, this was before Apple and Google came out with the news that they were getting together, which, by the way, is a rarity in the technology space, right? I mean, Google and Apple are pretty much enemies in a way, right? From a
Yes.
competitive standpoint.
Yep. Yep.
So it was interesting to see this announcement by them that they were coming together to, help with the contact tracing issue that's going on right now in the world. And for those of you not familiar with contact tracing, this is really the process that governments and other healthcare organizations are using to track cases of COVID-19 throughout their communities or their country. And traditionally, before COVID-19, this was a very manual process, right?
Yeah.
Of,
Yeah.
you know, if someone has COVID-19 or some type of infectious disease, you have to interview them, find out where they went, who they were in contact with,
Right.
and who may have been exposed to the virus. And
Right.
so now we're having technology kind of help out. And guess what? Everybody has a mobile phone that they carry around, and that makes a great device, especially with wireless technology, right?
Yeah.
To track people.
Yeah.
And
So
yeah,
I have a question that sort of arises from this. I'm sure many people would wonder. So, like, the technology itself doesn't know whether you've got COVID, right? But
yeah,
you basically have to self-identify, right, with the app.
right.
Is that the way it would work?
Yes. So the way it works is phones, obviously all our phones have Bluetooth, right? And if you have that turned on and you have either the app, so there's a lot of countries that have apps, like Singapore has one that's a third-party app. Apple and Google will have this built in. Apparently this is going to be a operating system update that they will release. And the idea is that if your phone is within 6 feet of somebody else that has been designated as that has COVID-19, it's going to record that information supposedly privately, right?
Right. Right.
And the way they're going to do it is it's going to set is that the system that they've developed, it has an encrypted list of phones, which will then trigger alerts to exposed users to either quarantine or seek out more information. The interesting part about it is that the authorities or whoever is getting this data has to sign off that an individual actually has tested positive before they can send that data. And then all the logs are encrypted. The data is supposed to be anonymous, so even Apple and Google can't even read it. But those authorities can, right? So we're kind of trusting our governments and healthcare organizations that they are going to protect that data, which they should be, right? It's that's normal business, right?
Yeah.
We have laws that protect healthcare information. That, of course, varies greatly across the world. I think Canada and US, we have very different laws around that as well. But and the other piece of this too is that there's no location data that's tracked, so no GPS location, anything like that as well. So what do you think, Scott? Do you think good idea?
Well, yeah, I think it's one of those things where you have to decide if you're going to trust the authorities that are managing it, right?
Yeah.
It's
Do you trust your government?
all depends on who's in power, right? But
Well, we have a
I,
king, so
yeah, I mean, I think we're constantly having to accept greater and greater levels of risk, to obtain the benefits of technological advances, right? That's pretty
yeah,
deep sounding, but it comes to mind like Miko Hippinen did a TED talk like 10 years ago about giving up your privacy rights. It's not that I have anything to hide,
yeah.
but if you give up the rights now, you've given them up forever, and you never know who's going to come. So
That's right. What's interesting, I think companies like Apple and Google can learn a lot from apps that have been out there for a while, like in Singapore. So in Singapore, the app is called Trace Together. It's a pretty well-known app. It's been out for a while, and it's actually being used, by people in Singapore to help track and prevent COVID-19. In fact, I think Singapore is one of the leading countries right now, where other countries are kind of modeling how they are handling the virus, and this is one of those areas from a technology perspective. So we'll link in the show notes. It's a really good article on the Trace Together app, and it operates in similar function as what the Apple and Google initiative is going to do. Again, the app doesn't track your location or contacts. There's some storage restrictions in terms of the data is erased after so many days. And there's other measures that are put in place. But my big question is, with all these different apps that are coming out, and now Apple and Google partnering together, it kind of leads me to believe that something horrible is going to go wrong, right? With the storage of this data. And I mean, right
yeah,
now, I mean, hackers and attackers right now, this is the golden era that has opened up for attacks, right?
absolutely, yeah,
It is,
yeah,
and we mentioned this on the show last time. We're seeing in the industry the largest number of attacks that are using COVID-19 and the virus as leverage, right?
yeah,
To
yeah.
compromise systems, people, and everything in between.
It's pretty funny. Like 2 weeks ago, when we did a press release for the first "Can I Be Fished" thing, I did a blog post a day or two later, and it was around the report from I think it was Atlas VPN that was quoting Google stats that said a 350% increase in phishing websites in February, March, or whatever it was. And then just yesterday, I read another report that said it was an 1,800% increase, and that's like 2 weeks later. It's just crazy.
It is crazy. It is crazy. So, I mean, eventually, that somebody's going to find a vulnerability. One of these apps is not going to be as secure as they say it is, and there's going to be a big incident. So
Yeah,
I'm hoping, Google and Apple obviously have a huge number of resources. They do take security seriously. They've been scrutinized many times in the past. They have really great internal
yeah,
security teams. I'm not worried so much about them, but I am
yeah,
worried about a lot of these third-party apps that we're starting to see and come out.
yeah, for sure. I mean, like you said, there's nobody in the world who's more capable of putting the right security in place than those companies. So that's a good thing. But you're right. It's what happens after that data gets collected, or who it may get shared with, supposedly legitimately under some maybe restrictive contractual agreement. But who knows if people are really going to be able to follow those agreements.
I would love to see the legal agreements between these companies and the healthcare providers, and then even the local
Yeah,
governments. Could you imagine just the complexity there because we're talking about a
yeah.
lot of personal data, and even if you're protecting that, there's always that risk of it being exposed. So
Yeah, That said, I think there's certainly a lot of work to be done, and I'm sure people are working day and night to get this app working because it's generally intended to be a good thing. So I don't doubt it'll help a lot, but in the longer term, yeah, we got to worry a little bit about what's going on with the information.
Exactly. And now a word from our sponsor, Edgewise Networks. The biggest problem in security that remains unsolved are flat networks in cloud and data centers, with unprotected attack paths that allow threats to move laterally to cause data breaches. But microsegmentation using network addresses is complicated and takes too much time. But there's a better approach: Edgewise Zero Trust Auto Segmentation. Edgewise is impossibly simple microsegmentation, delivering results immediately with a security outcome that's provable. At the core of Edgewise Auto Segmentation is Zero Trust Identity, which allows workloads to communicate only after their software identity has been verified. Malicious or unimproved software is no longer allowed to communicate. Identity-based protection provides more coverage with fewer policies to make Edgewise simple to deploy and manage. No changes to the application or network are required. One solution protects virtual machines and containers in the cloud and on-premises. To stop lateral threat movement and prevent breaches, visit edgewise.net for a demo and to see results within minutes. And speaking of good things, the other topic I wanted to discuss on the show was about a lot of the good things that's going on in the cybersecurity community and privacy community related to helping stop and prevent attacks that are related to COVID-19, which we just mentioned are on the rise. Maybe would be an understatement.
Yeah.
But lots of reports have been coming out in recent days and weeks just about the rise of attacks, and social engineering and phishing, especially phishing, is just out of control in some ways. And there's a lot of good groups that are coming out. One is the COVID-19 Cyber Threat Coalition,
Yeah.
which if any of our listeners are familiar with Brian Krebs, he just did a really nice article, which we'll have linked in the show notes. I encourage everyone to read about a couple of different groups, including the Cyber Threat Coalition, and some of the cool things that they're doing to kind of all pro bono, right, to help the situation. And the Cyber Threat Coalition actually is about 3,000 security professionals that have gotten together, and they're just sharing intelligence with not just each other, but governments, the federal, these different federal agencies, like in the U.S. Homeland Security specifically. And, people are just coming together for free, working on their own time to, collate all this information. In fact, their website has a lot of good stuff. They have a block list. So if you're in an organization that, has monitoring and you're doing filtering, say on your email and your firewall, you can actually use these block lists for free, which are continuously updated with new threat actors, and your organization can get kind of an extra level of protection there by utilizing these block lists. So you can find out more. We'll link that in our show notes. They have a Slack a Slack chat room that you can join, which if you're interested.
Actually, I tried to join and it wouldn't let me. Maybe it's because I'm in Canada, but said this invitation is no longer valid. They saw me coming.
It is. You squirrely Canadians. We can't trust you.
Actually, and then an hour later, I came across there's the Canadian Volunteer Cyber Defense Force.
Oh yeah, yep.
Which is a similar one, and it maybe affiliated as well with the COVID-19 Cyber Threat Coalition. But in Canada, at least I got a chance to participate in that one.
Yes. And then there's also another group that's been around for a longer period of time. I think it's been around for several years, which is the Cyber Threat Alliance. We'll also link them in the show notes. They're doing some really good things as well. More so, I'd say just general internet security, but obviously that is now kind of changed a bit with the focus on COVID-19, but still doing really good stuff. And then the other thing I had found was a lot of security companies are giving away either free trials of their software, or in fact just free services to help businesses and other organizations that are really impacted by COVID-19,
Yeah.
including healthcare
Yeah.
organizations and hospitals. So we'll link that in the show notes too. But I found a kind of a listing of all these different companies that have everything from free email access, platform access, security assessments, free licensing of software. It's just really incredible the number of companies that are just coming out and willing to help people out.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes that's, it's the right thing to do. So,
It is the right thing to do, because we're all in this together, as they say, and I think that's the only way we're going to get out of this is if the whole world and all of us come together.
yeah. I mean, it's going to accelerate, a lot of, I think there'll be a few waves, right? So it'll certainly all of the ongoing initiatives that had been happening are probably being accelerated in terms of cybersecurity alliances and initiatives like that. There are going to be new initiatives to try and, make uh, new services or new offerings uh, in light of the fact that so many people now need it. But
Yep.
then there will be some backlash, right? There will be some vulnerabilities, or something will be found in the next month, I'm sure, between around some of these things. But they'll get fixed, and in the end, I think it'll accelerate, a lot of security. Um, but hopefully, we can keep up with the threats.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So how's so have they talked about plans in Canada to open back up and get back to normal, or is that still
No,
off
I
the
think
table?
they're talking. Last I heard about extending the travel ban across the border. So
Isn't that always in place? I think you guys shut down the border access like right after Trump stopped flights from China, right?
yeah, yeah. No, it's I mean, overall, I think there are a lot of signs of optimism. The curve seems to have been flattened, enough at least to prevent the major surge of things that were going to overwhelm the healthcare systems. So I think we're in reasonably good shape at the moment.
That's good. That's really good. Yeah, I know in Ohio where I live, I think this is the week that we're hitting the curve, right? And things should start going downhill from here. And I know other states like California have already talked about start slowly opening things back up
Hmm.
right in the
And they
beginning of
were one
the
of
year.
the first to close, right?
They
So
were, yeah.
yeah,
Washington
yeah,
State and California in the U.S. were some of the first to close. So, and the situation in New York is still obviously very concerning, but seems to be getting better as well.
yeah.
So,
Well, let's hope for the best.
yeah,
Hope this stuff can subside. I mean, it's not ever going to really get back to normal for the foreseeable future, but
yes.
at least we'll be able to go to a movie, maybe. Is
Hopefully,
that
go
what
out to
you're hoping
dinner
for,
again.
Tom?
Hoping for one day. Yes, yes. I did want to ask you, Scott, as an owner of a small business, how are you? And maybe you talk to other small business owners, especially in technology and in the startup community.
Yeah.
How are you guys adapting to this new normal?
Well, I mean, I have to be honest that you want to be positive about everything, right? And you want to keep moving forward. And there's always that incentive. And generally, I'm a positive person, so I'm optimistic. But I have to say, one point about a month or two ago, maybe a month ago, I read an article that was actually circulating amongst the startup community by a guy named Steve Blank, who is well known for being the inspiration for things like the Lean Startup from Eric Ries, and he put it very bleakly and said, if you're not thinking about Plan B and Plan C right now, you could be in big trouble. And that's kind of when I started thinking about it, a month or so ago, and we started getting serious about cutting back on our planned expenses and right back to almost nothing, just to almost pressing the pause button, right? But at the same time, as this was happening, we're starting to see the news about the rise in cyber attacks. And all of a sudden it's, do we slow down or do we speed up? So it's been a really interesting daily conflict, or stress to say, okay, here are the things we've got to control costs on, and here are the things that we really need to try and progress with. And so as a startup, our focus really was going to be on small, medium-sized businesses, and that market, may or may not be around, for quite a while. It could be a while before we see that come back, and a lot of businesses could go under. So we're actually broadening our marketing, our target market, beyond small businesses to, government, not-for-profits, enterprises. And strategic partnerships, I think are going to be really important. So it's really just taking a look at the situation through the eyes of a lot of our advisors who've been through downturns before, and trying to make sure we're doing the right things. So yeah, it is a scary time, but we're actually pretty optimistic, and we intend to get through it.
Do you think that maybe with what's going on, that this actually may be a economic boom for some businesses?
Well, I mean, look at Zoom, right? I mean,
there's one.
Everybody would love to have been in Zoom's position, but I mean, I don't want to speculate and say, hey, we're going to be, a beneficiary of this terrible thing. I just think every business has to look at, the new reality and say, what can we bring as value, right, to people who are still around. So that's the way I have to look at it. And I think security is there's always going to be a need for it. And in my view, we just have to make sure we're, finding and bringing the value to the right people.
Exactly. Yep. Well, good stuff, Scott. I hope you stay safe in Ottawa, and
likewise.
Get better. Thank you. Anything coming up for you? Are you doing anything virtually, like any virtual conferences or talks or?
Good question. Actually, I have been considering starting to do sort of mini live webinar or something, right? Just to get some sort of consistency going, and get some community around the people who are in my network and beyond. Something that would just focus a little bit on the human side of security, which is certainly what I like to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we kind of need that right now.
We do.
So I'll let you know if I'm able to bring that together among all the other things that I'm working on.
Yeah.
We'll see.
That sounds good. Yeah. For me, it's just, keeping up with the podcast, and we're still doing our weekly show and the monthly show now. And we're going to be prepping for the big episode 100 of this show, the monthly show.
That's true. Where are we going to do it from? I think we should have backdrops that reflect where we would like to be broadcasting from.
I think you better start ordering that green screen that we've been talking about.
Yeah. It's pretty bleak, the difference between your background and mine.
I'm just on a news show. I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, happy to entertain ideas from listeners on what we could do to make episode number 100, memorable. Put it that way.
I've already been told that by one listener that we should have Kevin back on because he always provides colorful commentary.
But with social distancing.
Yes. Well, he's in Florida, so that's a pretty big gap.
Well, I think I heard on the last week's episode that you had him on, he said he's been doing social distancing for 40 years. So
yes, because he's the introvert.
He would definitely be make it a memorable show. So I'm happy to have Kevin back.
We could have Jason Street back on, and they could just duke it out together.
You and I wouldn't need to show up then.
That's right. We could just leave. It'd be the Kevin and Jason show for episode 100. That'd be fine. But no, it'd be good. I think we may have a many guest appearances. Actually, I think that might be fun. So
awesome. Yeah, we need to hire an MC.
No. This show does not have the budget for that.
Oh.
All right.
Anyway, well, so it'll be May, right? May will be the date of our 100.
Yeah, and maybe we'll just start getting out of the apocalypse at that time. So it'd be good timing.
Good news.
We might have something to celebrate.
Turning the century mark, and
that's right. That's right. All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening, for watching. I actually had quite a few people on the stream, so that was great. And we will catch you next month. Check out the weekly show. New episode every Monday to get your top 3 privacy and cybersecurity stories from the week. And we'll talk to everyone soon.
Thanks, everybody.
See ya.